Hello, this is Jan from the Fuzzy Duckling, bringing you our video number 7 from our Learning to Draw series. This is actually the very first lesson in Chapter 2, which is all about drawing squares, rectangles, and triangles. Try saying that 3 times. Squares, rectangles, and triangles. That can get a little tricky. So, this time, this is going to be like maybe we should call it a hidden object game today. You're going to be going and hunting. Let me arrange my... There we go. All right. If you want to get you a piece of drawing paper, you can start this with me. Now, you're going to have to go on a hunt in a little while and find some things. But let's get it all set up. So, get your piece of paper and your pencil. I would suggest you use a pencil. Now, I'm going to use my big Sharpie black pen so you can see my lines real well when I draw them. But you probably just want to use a pencil for this project. So, first off, we're going to draw a straight line across the top of our paper. Now, mine's not very straight because I was looking over to see if I had my piece of paper on screen so you could see it. So I made a crooked line. But you know, for this project, that's just fine. And we're going to write squares, rectangles, and triangles right along the top of it. So squares, S-Q-U-A-R-E-S. Rectangles, R-E-C-T-A-N-G-L-E-S, and triangles. There we go. And then we're going to draw us some squares to draw different objects in. So, a little ways down, let's draw a line straight across. And then about that far down again, let's draw another line straight across. And then we're going to divide this up into 3 sections. See, we're doing some rectangles here, aren't we? If you know what a rectangle is, we just drew a rectangle there, and there, and there, and there, and there. We almost drew a square here, but not quite. All right, let's lay that aside, and let's talk about what these things are. Now, most of us know what all of these are, but, you know, I don't think we think about it very much. We just take these kind of things for granted. So, what is a square? Well, a square has 4 sides, and all 4 sides are equal, just like that. Now, I didn't use a ruler, but, you know, you look at it, and you can pretty much say, that's a square. See if I can draw it straighter. You can practice just like that until you can do your squares and make them look like squares. This is something you'll use a lot in your art, is making squares. You notice all 4 sides are about the same length. Well, true square, they are the same length, but you know, sometimes we don't draw them quite that well. And then a rectangle is where 2 sides are longer than the other 2 sides. So look at this. And then we have the short side like we had here. Then we have that longer side again. And there we go. That's a rectangle. And these were squares. And rectangles, they can be all different sizes. So it might be like this. But if there's 4 sides and 2 sides are longer than the others, you have a rectangle. It might even be long like this and skinny. Look at that. That's a rectangle just like this is and this is. Now here's a weird thing, and I'll be honest, it had been a long time since I had math, so I had to look up to be sure I was calling these right. What if you have something like this? It looks like I'm going to draw a rectangle, but then I do that. And these sides aren't the same. Do you know there's a name for that too? It's a really funny name. It's called a trapezoid. Now, to draw these things, we really don't have to know the names of them, but I think that's such a funny word. And then we were going to do one more thing, which is a triangle. Now, if you notice, all of these had 4 sides to them. All of them. Squares, rectangles, and trapezoids all have 4 sides. Do you know how many sides a triangle has? And there's a clue in the name. Tri. The word, the T-R-I part of a triangle means 3. So it says there's 3 angles. Triangle. 3 angles. So that also means there are going to be 3 sides on a triangle. And there's also 3 angles, because where the sides meet up, like this, those are called angles. So we have 3 sides and 3 angles. Just like on squares, we had 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. And where they met up, we had 4 angles. It sounds like math. And in fact, you'll study this in math if you haven't already done it. Okay, so again, squares, rectangles, or trapezoids, you're going to have 4 lines. Triangle, you're going to have 3. And none of those are really hard to draw. Just practice them till it's easy for you. Now, a triangle might be like this, or a triangle could be really skinny like that. Okay, so what I want you to do is look around your house or outdoors, someplace where you are a lot, and see how many things you can find that are these shapes. Now, I was really surprised. I went looking around my house just a few minutes ago. I thought I could find lots and lots and lots of squares and rectangles and probably trapezoids. You know what I found the most of? It'll be interesting to see if you do too. I found many more rectangles than I found squares. I was so surprised. And it was really hard for me to find a triangle at all. Now, I could find some triangles buried in another shape, which I'll show you later. I could find them there, but I couldn't find things that were just triangle shape all by themselves. So short of maybe going to see the pyramids, it might be hard to see a triangle shape all by itself. But take your other piece of paper now, the one that you did this on, and go out into the house and see if you can draw the things that you find that are shaped like these. Now, I'm going to show you what I came up with. Now, these drawings aren't going to be very fancy because I'm just doing them right here. One of the things I found was this. Can you see through my hand so you can see what it was? I'm going to add that there because that kind of helps me know what that was. Do you know what that is? That was my front door. My front door is a rectangle. I'm going to put R there for rectangle. How's that? So I looked a little farther. My front door is in our living room. And on the other side of the living room, I saw this. See if you can guess what this is going to be. You know what this is? I bet you're starting to know now. And I think we had a little square like up there. I'll fill it in. This was my TV. My TV is made out of rectangles. And then the little table it sits on, the front edge of that looks like a rectangle. So I'm going to put an R here too. Okay, then I looked over to the other side of the room and we have this big bookcase. And in that bookcase were all kinds of books. And you know what shape they were? They were mostly all rectangles. Now, if I'd have looked hard, I might have found a square book. But you know, there's not very many books that are square. So look, so far I found 3 rectangles. So I kept looking. Now this one might be a little hard to tell what it is if you don't know. Again, we had a rectangle. See if you know what it is when this starts coming out of the top of it. If you have a cold and you need to wipe your nose, what do you use? You use tissues. We like to call them Kleenex or tissues. So my box of tissues had a rectangle shape. And then I looked down at the table. And there was something. Now I'm going to draw this fairly big. That looked like, then there was a square in here. And on one end was this circle. And over here was another little rectangle. And I called these squares. And they are rectangles. Now, it might be hard for you to recognize that. But that was my phone. Looked like that. More rectangles. I haven't found a square yet. So, I kept hunting. Let's see if you can figure out what this is. I'm not doing the greatest job here, am I? All right. It had a rectangle, not a square. There, and some here. I'll give you a hint. I found this in the kitchen, and it's great big. It's taller than I am. It's our fridge. A bunch of rectangles to draw my fridge. So then I went into another room. Still looking for squares and haven't found any, by the way. All right, in another room, I had this. Another rectangle. Can you believe it? This was sitting on a stand with some legs on it. We got a rectangle again, and you know what it was? Let me draw this in here, and I bet you'll go, oh, that's what it was. It was my aquarium. More rectangles. And I forgot to put my R's on these. There's rectangles there, and rectangles there, rectangles there, and rectangles here. Oh my goodness. Rectangles all over the place. And I only have 2 more spots left. Now, I really had to look hard and try to come up with something for a triangle. And the only way I could find triangles is if they were along with a square shape or a rectangle shape. And I'll show you what I mean. Outside my window, I can see our outside shed where we put our rakes and our hoes and our lawnmowers and things. And so the bottom part of that shed is pretty much a square. Found my first square. And then the doors in that shed are rectangles. Alrighty, and then there was this little rectangle bar. But this shed has a roof on it. And here's where my first triangle came in. The roof looks like a triangle. So here was my triangle. Here was my square. And there were my rectangles. So we found all of those shapes in one thing. So do you see how those were all put together? I'll put shed here. Now I'm going to look for one more thing. I tried to find another triangle. I tried to find one inside. The only way I could do it again is if it was a triangle hooked to a rectangle. So look here. Let's see if you can figure this one out. We're going to do a rectangle like this, kind of a tall, skinny rectangle. And then there was a piece of paper on here that had a label or something on it. It had some writing there. And then on top was the triangle. And on the very tip of that triangle was a little square. I'm going to fill in that little square. So what does that look like to you? It was my bottle of water. This little exercise of hunting for things in the house or outside is to show you that everything has a basic shape to it. The basic shape may be a square, a rectangle, a triangle, a circle. There's just all kinds of shapes, and a lot of shapes we haven't really talked about. So an artist usually goes and looks to see what a basic shape is of the thing he wants to draw. So if I want to draw my TV, I look at it and the basic shape is a rectangle. So I will draw a rectangle first. And after I've drawn my rectangle, then I will add other details in. Or if I want to draw my shed, I draw the basic shape of a square first. I can draw the basic shape of the triangle on top. And then I put the door in, which again is the shape of a rectangle. Now, when I said later on I go in and do details, then there's details like, well, is the shed made out of wood? Then I might add wood in. This is the details that you add in after you get the basic shape. It's starting to look like a little cabin, isn't it? Now, if my roof is shingles, I might do something like this and add shingles on. These are the details. Like that. Now this is starting to look like a little house or something. You can make this a cute little house. Add a chimney here. Make smoke coming out of it. You could add a hill behind it, and there's your details. But everything started out as a simple shape. So what I want you to do now is take your piece of paper, go out through the house, and see how many things you can find that the basic shape is a square, rectangle, or a triangle, or several put together, and draw them on your sheet. Now, what I found out that was interesting, and I just hadn't thought about it, you're going to find a lot more rectangles than you will find squares. And you will find hardly any triangles. But everyone's will be different, and it will be really interesting to see what everybody comes up with. So, I'm going to leave you with that. This was a short lesson today. Our next lesson will be a lot longer because we're going to do this really neat picture. But maybe do 2 or 3 of these and see what you can find. Maybe do a sheet that's just squares and a sheet that's just rectangles and a sheet that's just triangles. Then keep all of these in your art book. And after you do some of these, see what you can do to add the details. Example, this box of tissues here. What if it was striped like this? My details are the stripes. If I had color crayons here, I could color all those stripes different colors. Wouldn't that be neat? Or my door may have a window at the top that I can add now. One of those where you can look out and see who's outside. Or it may have this little piece of wood that makes a square at the bottom. Or my TV may have somebody on it. Ooh, funny looking person, isn't it? So, let's see what you can do with that. Have fun with this. Take your time and have fun. You'll come up with some neat looking pictures. So that's all for today, and we'll be back in a few with that really fun picture I told you about. So, bye-bye for now. You have a wonderful day drawing.